Ciao ragazzi, we're going to do the Trapassato Prossimo now, which we call in English the past perfect. We do actually have this in English. So the Trapassato Prossimo is something that expresses an action that took place before another past action. It can get a little confusing, but what I mean is whenever you're using the imperfetto passato prossimo, you could have an action that happened even before those actions happened. In English we say had. So the example I have is class had begun when Mario walked in. So Mario walked in is my past action. And then class had begun happened a little further in the past. So we have to make sure to express that properly. And in English we say had begun, but you'll see how we do it in Italian. Okay, so forming the trapassato is actually a mix of the passato prossimo and perfetto, so it's good. It's no new information. It's kind of just mixing together what you already know. Why, you may ask? It's a compound tense like the passato prossimo, and by compound, I mean that it takes a helping verb and a past participle. If you remember, our helping verb is essere or avere. In any tense that you learn in Italian, essere or avere will be your helping verb. And the only difference is that the helping verb we actually conjugate in the imperfect and then put it together with a past participle. So dormito, andato, etc. Okay? So first let's just quickly review essere and avere in the imperfect. So essere is ero, eri, era, eravamo, eravate, erano. Sorry if they don't line up, but you can get over that. Okay, and then we have avere. So it's avevo. Avere is regular, so this one's easier. Avevo, avevi, aveva, avevamo, avevate, avevano. Okay? So when we actually want to form the trapassato, we have these two different ways. So let's cominciare, to begin, cominciare. So here in this column we have avevo, avevi, aveva, avevamo, avevate, avevano. So our helping verb is avere. And you'll see that cominciato is the same for each and every one. You do not change the endings for avere verb, so this one's a little easier. Then we have andare, which hopefully by now you know is a house verb. So we have to use essere, which is ero, eri, era, eravamo, eravate, erano. And then our past participle. This one's a little trickier because you have to remember to change the endings. So for these first three, we have in the singular, it's going to be andato or andata, depending on if you're talking about boy or girl or masculine or feminine object. We have andato, andata, andato, andata. Then we go into the plural. So we have eravamo, andati or andate. Eravate, andati, andate, or erano, andati or andate. Totally depends on what you're talking about, but you have to always remember to change those endings. Okay, so this can be, I know this is a little much, but it's very important. So here we have, right here, we're in the present, okay? Presente. Anything past here would be considered the future. It hasn't happened yet. Here we have the passato prossimo and the imperfetto. They're near each other. They could be, it really depends on what you're trying to say. Imperfetto could be further in the past than passato prossimo, but generally we'll consider this yesterday. So if something happened yesterday, then you have to think that the trapassato prossimo had happened even earlier than that. So il giorno primo, the day before. Okay, so that's what I mean when it's a little further in the past. So, my example, ieri sono andata al cinema con amici perché avevo già finito il mio progetto. So, yesterday I went to the movies with friends because I had already finished my project. So, you'll see già here already. You're going to use that a lot with the trapassato. Not all the time, but it's pretty often used with the trapassato. And you'll see had already finished. You have to think of it as saying had already because it happened a little further in the past. Okay, so we have some examples here. Once again, già, already. That's a very important word you should know by now. So, my base is quando sono arrivata a casa. That is my passato. When I arrived home, different things could have happened. I could say la mia famiglia aveva già mangiato. My family had already eaten. Okay? I could say mio fratello era già partito. When I arrived home, my brother had already left. Or I could also say il postino era già venuto. So the postman had already come. So hopefully you're getting a sense of this by now. Okay. Moving along, why don't you go ahead and pause the video, give these a shot. You're going to conjugate each one of these in the trapassato. So remember, you need a helping verb and a past participle. Okay? Alright, let's go over the answers. So for io and avere, you're going to say avevo avuto, which I know sounds so weird, but if I wanted to say, like, I already had, 5 years when you're talking about your age, you would say avevo avuto 5 anni. I was already 5 when I learned how to do something. That's an example. Then we have essere in the lei. So era stata. Remember, essere is an irregular past participle, and you have to remember to change the ending. So because we're talking about lei, you have to change it to an A. Alzarsi. You should have seen that this is a reflexive verb. So every time you see a reflexive verb, you need a reflexive pronoun. So the noi reflexive pronoun is ci. So ci eravamo alzati or alzate, depending on who we're talking about. When in doubt, just go for the masculine, though. Next one, we have leggere. Hopefully you remember, leggere is an irregular past participle. So, tu avevi letto. Scrivere, loro avevano scritto. Same thing, scrivere is an irregular past participle. And if you struggled with putting the correct past participles, you have to go back and review those because they're very important. So, the trapassato is kind of a good thing to do because we're reviewing everything we've already learned. In scendere, eravate, scesi, or scese. Remember, scendere is a house verb. So we used essere as a helping verb and then changed our past participle endings. Okay, here's another one. Go ahead and fill in the blanks, pause the video, and give it a shot. Alright, and here are your answers. So, loro avevano creduto. Credere is to believe, so they had believed. Tu non avevi mangiato ancora. You still hadn't eaten. Noi avevamo parlato a lungo. Io ero uscito or uscita. Io ero arrivato o arrivata. Lo studente aveva finito. Tu eri stato o stata. Voi avevate comprato. Noi avevamo deciso. E Luisa aveva scritto. And this is our last one. So we'll have full sentences. Go ahead and try this last one. Okay, and here are the answers. So when I was 5 years old, I had already learned to read. Quando avevo 5 anni, remember when you're talking about 5 years old, you have to use avere, you're talking about an age. And I was 5 years. You have to use the imperfect. You were 5 years for a whole 365 days over and over again. So think it's a habitual action. So quando avevo 5 anni, avevo già imparato a leggere. I had already learned to read. My mom had cooked dinner when I came home. La mia mamma aveva preparato cena quando sono venuto or quando sono venuta a casa. Did you hear that Marina had won the lottery? When you're talking about did you hear, you could actually say sapevi che or anche hai saputo che. Either or actually worked there. Che Marina aveva vinto la lotteria. So vinto is an irregular past participle. In the last one, ho incontrato or ho conosciuto Adam Sandler dopo aveva già girato il suo film. Okay, so ho incontrato, I met Adam Sandler. I met him that one time. So you're going to say ho incontrato or ho conosciuto. Either or work there. Although do realize that when I'm saying the verb to meet, I'm not saying like incontrare could be like to meet friends for dinner or something like that. But ho conosciuto, when you're using conoscere, it's specifically for meeting someone for the first time. So you have to be careful. Okay, so that was it. Thank you for watching. I hope it was helpful.